So welcome to everyone for this exciting webinar. One a small change or big change, whatever. So Mukund, who was supposed to be originally on this webinar in last 15 minutes, he has some personal emergency which has come up. So he is not on the webinar, but being an agile organization, I think we have found a pretty solid replacement in Omar. And actually, Omar might be even more relevant on this particular topic, as Omar runs Enkel, many of you might know. So he is building an exceptional organization providing back office accounting and bookkeeping services. And he's ex-KPMG. And he has a team of around 55, 60 people spread between various parts of Canada and India. So welcome, Omar.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, it's great. And I think it also shows how quickly we can move from one speaker to another. So I think, yeah. And but I hope everything is okay with Mukund, who was supposed to be here. There must be some things, very important which has come up. Anyway, let's move on. So what we are trying to do is, actually I was in India in February, and that's when COVID had also started happening. And by the time we came back, and in March, the lockdown really happened. And most of my data points are from Canada, US, and to some extent India. So it has been an interesting journey on the personal side as well as professional side. One thing is, initially we thought it will not be as bad, but then it turned out to be worse than what we thought in terms of economic implications, etc. But then I think if you see last 2-3 months, it has been pretty encouraging how everyone has worked as a team, as a society, as a community. And particularly in BC, we are fortunate. And now, as we are in phase 3 or phase 4 of reopening, a lot of interesting lessons which we have learned along the way. Also, we are a team of around 200 people spread between Canada and India, and everybody is working from home. It was also pretty good stress test on various ways of working, infrastructure, etc. And overall, I'll say I'll rate it 7 or 8 out of 10. Yeah. So, Omar, any thoughts?
Yeah, we, prior to this, as a company at Enkel, we didn't really have a formal work from home policy. And in a matter of a few days, really, we had to have everybody working from home. And I'd say this has been quite transformational in the short term, but I think it will have a lasting impact. And I think that lasting impact actually could have some very positive benefits on the organization.
Yeah, so before I go further, feel free to put your questions. We have a live chat active, and between Omar and me, we'll be happy to answer all the questions. Yeah. So Omar, one question for you. What was your biggest fear when in March, in terms of, obviously leave aside for a minute the economic impact on the business, in terms of culture, people working from home? What were your top 2 or 3 things?
Yeah, so I'd say the one that comes to mind, the most, sort of critical one was, how is this going to impact our efficiency? We've gone from a model where we've had people showing up in the office every single day. And how is that going to change, our efficiency? Are we going to have, are there going to be negative implications to what we can deliver on a monthly basis? And interestingly, I'd say that fear, I was completely incorrect about that. We actually saw a pretty dramatic change, and we saw some pretty great things happen on the efficiency front. The other thing is, of course, security, data security. We went from having people, working in the office, right, in an environment that we can, largely control, to working from home on their own internet connections. So that was a pretty big concern for me as well. And I think it is a concern for many other leaders out there.
Yeah. And what about the culture part? Because you are big on culture. What
Yeah.
are the even negative things which happen there?
Yeah. So culturally, we had a lot of events on sort of a monthly and weekly basis that really had formed the fabric of the organization, right? We have our Friday meetings once a month. We have like a light breakfast in the office for the team. We were doing, sports events for the teams to try to keep the teams fit. And now not being able to bring people together, of course, you almost have to start from ground zero. And I'll be totally transparent there. We're still figuring it out. We are thinking about what we can do to keep people engaged. But it is a new set of challenges for sure. I think the thing that really is the most important when you can't see people face to face is communication. I mean, we have a number of, I'd say, social Slack channels, or they could be team channels, I guess. Sorry. But we use Slack in our organization, and we have one where people post pictures of their pets, right? And previously it was something that wasn't used that frequently, and I see people using these channels more and more to stay connected.
Yeah. Again, I'll encourage everyone, if you have any technical questions, feel free to put them there, or any other questions. So what we did on Optimus side, and because we have a distributed organization between Canada and India, a few things which we did is, one is really around security. So I'll say, over-invested in security in terms of single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, Azure AD, Okta, combination of all these things. Second thing is, for our customers, it was an interesting one because many of our customers are still on-premise, and they are in the process of moving to cloud. So hybrid cloud became more and more important. VPN became important, but definitely we saw a significant move towards migrating a lot of customer assets to the cloud. And the third thing was, I think it's a good stress test that everybody at their home, particularly in India, some of our team members did not have great internet capabilities. So obviously, we as an organization invested in it. And that seems to be, I'm pretty impressed with how good the internet infrastructure has been obviously in Canada, but also on India side. The other thing on the tech tools we'll say is, I think, and so the topic is more how it will look like as we reopen. I don't think we'll ever go back to 100% of the team members working 100% of the time from office. So really how you make a very seamless infrastructure between their home office, coffee shop, and office, and at the same time keep on providing value to the customers, that's becoming important. And honestly, we feel we were underutilizing the technology. I think today technology is there, it's more a mindset and behavioral pattern issue, and how do we trust team members more that they can focus more on outcomes and deliver, etc. So yeah, we have seen some pretty good things happen here. And later part of this webinar, I'll go maybe a little deeper into some of those things and how we are doing it. So Omar, you are moving to, sorry, go ahead, yeah.
I was actually just going to ask you a question related to what you were talking about, cloud, accelerating the move to the cloud. So at Enkel, we've actually had some fairly significant demand lately for new clients coming in looking to move their accounting platforms to the cloud. And it's very clear that this has been COVID driven, not being able to go into the office to access your instance of Sage, how, it would be so much more efficient if you could just log into the cloud. So that tells me really that a lot of organizations are taking the time to move to the cloud. So what should these organizations really consider before making that move?
That's a Actually, somebody told me never say that's a good question because that means other questions were not good. So, but that is a good question. So one is our view is if I go back to Jim Collins' book, that basically shoot some bullets, do some small experiments, start moving your assets to cloud. Don't necessarily move your most critical thing on day one because there is certain behavior change, but a lot of things just start moving to cloud. Having said that, there are some organizations, they move their most critical assets to cloud first because they are comfortable with it and they feel cloud is more reliable. So we see customers on both sides. But the idea is start moving things and there's a learning curve there. So learn from it, experiment. And there are some pretty good things like Microsoft has Azure Cloud Adoption Framework, which we follow. So it has pretty good thing in terms of assessment, plan, migrate, what are the risks, etc., how to manage them. So that's a good way to start. But you can start from anywhere. I think ultimately we believe that number one, there'll always be some, what we say, hybrid cloud. There'll always be certain applications which will remain on-premise because of various reasons. It may be data security, privacy, whatever. But otherwise, what will happen is a lot of things will move to cloud because of it's just better, faster, cheaper, variable cost, moving from CapEx to OpEx, etc. So there are certain organizations like yours, I'm aware that where you are building the lot of applications which are cloud native.
Right.
So that is pretty good for an organization which does not have legacy.
Right.
But any organization which already have a lot of applications, I think a good thing is to move those applications to cloud first, and then start modernizing those applications. And second is really around data analytics. There's still most of the organizations have lots and lots of Excel sheets, Google Sheets, etc. So you start capturing all of them, and there are some pretty good tools like Power BI or Amazon has Quick Sites and some of these tools that start showing organization the value of data. A lot of data is there, how you analyze it and how you present in a way so that decision making is easier. Right. So these are some good ways to demonstrate value to the various stakeholders and bringing that culture of moving towards cloud. The other part is which is happening is, and that will continue in post-COVID, which is around a lot of collaboration tools. And we are pretty big on that, and I know Enkel is even bigger on that. But we are surprised how good, for example, tools like Microsoft Teams has become a much a very interesting tool. Obviously, Zoom is pretty big, and how it is integrating with various tools. For example, G Suite, Calendar, etc. You can make Zoom calls, and same thing. Slack is pretty big. So all the tools are pretty good. Take one tool and make sure that everybody in the organization starts using it. Pretty big,
Yeah. Great.
So there's a question to Omar from Hitesh.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically the question is more around how you're using IT infrastructure on the security side as people are working from home. How do they connect to the company network? My feeling in your case, since everything is on the cloud, so you don't have really company servers on premise. Is that maybe why don't you answer?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. So we have basically we're 100% cloud as an organization. But on that, on a similar note there, we've really stepped up. Multi-factor authentication has been critical. We think to keeping the organization secure. We work with about, I'd say, 30 applications, but 10 of them are quite core to the business. And so making sure that employees have multi-factor authentication enabled is quite critical to keeping our systems and our data safe. So we've really, I would say, amped up the compliance and audit around that we felt has been very important.
The other thing also is on, I think, your organization as well as on Optimus side, the Active Directory and single sign-on has become pretty big. So, like Omar's company uses Okta. Okta is one of the world leaders in this space, and obviously we do a lot of work on Microsoft Azure AD. So implementing that and making sure that it works and everybody goes through that. And actually, a significant part of that is when we onboard an employee, making sure they are aware of what the security aspects are. That's an important one. The other part which I will also sensitize is when people are working from home, the personal privacy issues and issues around harassment or sexual harassment, etc. Those issues are also becoming quite important here in Canada as well as in India. What is considered acceptable in those areas when you are face to face versus when you are at your home. For example, somebody might have a funny, basically the desktop screen, or what type of clothes you are wearing and when the video is on, and a lot of those interesting aspects are coming up. So, for example, we have done complete training across the organization, particularly on the India side, where where we have a bigger team, and so all those are really interesting. Learning it really, at least, helping me develop certain muscles, which which were definitely on the weaker side before. Yeah. So. So I hope I answered Tesh's question. What about, Omar, another question for you is, what do you think of productivity, the way you used to measure versus you are measuring now? Is it changing?
So I really believe that for an effective work from home program, be it for COVID or over the long term, you really do need to focus on measurement and outcomes. So having very clear dashboards around what success looks like. And pre-COVID, we had these things, but we really tightened them up with COVID. And it just sort of happened naturally. And I do feel like through that, we've achieved a lot better alignment around what success looks like on an ongoing basis. So I think really having clarity in what success looks like for employees or people at all levels really is key for this model to work.
So actually taking further on this question which came from Hitesh, I was thinking, so what we also have is on Optimus side, as well as I believe, Omar, you also have, is we have a combination of BYOD, which is basically bring your own device, and that had from day one, so that really helped. And also in India, we provide the infrastructure to team members.
Right.
So that having bring your own device is because we already had certain basic security parameters set, so it was easier to do that that migration. So connecting it to company network was because many team members were already doing it earlier.
Yeah.
So another question, Omar, which has come up, which is interesting from someone, is knowing what you know now. Suppose, I mean, hopefully this crisis doesn't happen again, but suppose it happens again.
Yeah.
You're learning, what will you do differently? And again, more from the technology perspective.
Yeah. So this is a hard one because there's no going back. But I think being ready for work from home over the long term, and I know I keep on talking about this, but I think that's quite key. I mean, we've actually started hiring again, and we have been hiring people now across Canada. It has really opened the door to, I think, a world of possibilities that we didn't know was previously possible. So I'd say having, work from home policies down and in place. Again, having, measurement KPIs, helping employees really understand what success looks like. I think having that model in place beforehand. Yeah, and then continuing to explore new technologies constantly. How can you implement new technologies to improve communication across the organization? To get a sense of how employees are feeling. How can you use technology to enhance culture? And the culture part is actually, to be honest, the part that is, I think, the hardest at this point for us, where we're maybe feeling still a little bit unclear or lost because so much of what we did was face to face, right? Now we're trying to transform to, to making our culture or continuing to allow our culture to grow and thrive, but using technology.
And this question has come from me, which is what are the top 3 tech tools that organization should look into?
Yeah.
So our view is, as a team which I run, plus as a service provider, assume that everybody would be working remotely or from the place of their choice, including office, forever. Then how do you put a technology stack which is important? So I think 3 or 4 things, which one is, I'll say security is super important. So how do you have single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, LastPass, XYZ, but everybody, and also locking the basic things like antivirus and some of those things. And at the same time, that connectivity to all the applications happens. So I'll say single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, all other security things, etc. That is number one, and there are pretty well-established tools and stacks for that.
Yeah.
Second thing is, whether your application is cloud ready or not, it makes sense to put everything on cloud. No point in having your own servers in the office, because many times people will not be able to go and maintain those servers, and it's not really worth even the cost. So move to cloud. It can be Azure, it can be AWS, it can be Google, any one of them, but obviously we prefer Azure, but all of them are pretty solid, so that people have flexibility to log into those applications wherever they want. And third is, on the collaboration side, how you have pretty good team communication, videos, messaging, all those things. So again, there are multiple tools. It can be Teams, it can be Slack, it can be any other tool. And other thing which we find measure a lot of things. So for us, data, we collect a lot of data, and how do we make sure that we distribute all those reports, dashboards, etc. Everybody has access to them, so that all of us are aligned on what a particular thing means. So that really, those are the things which I'll say top 3 on my priority list.
Yeah.
So there is another question which has come, and maybe Omar, you can answer first, then I can answer. Besides Slack channels, what have you done to engage and communicate with your teams?
Yeah, so what we've done is we have started a more formal check-in process with team members. And so there's now like a structured, monthly meeting where we talk about the individual, we talk about, we do talk about performance, but we do, ask that employee how they're doing personally. The other thing that I've been doing is I've been sort of informally checking in with team members. So what my mentality has been there is, when you were in the office, I could easily just drop by your desk and chat. But even though you don't report to me, I still want to have that kind of communication, and I'm sure you do too. So what I've done is, where I've had these little gaps, so between Zoom meetings, I do find it's very structured. You have these half-hour blocks, right? So where I have these gaps at times, what I've done is I've just sent a Slack message to a team member and said, hey, can we just catch up for a few minutes? And you really do feel at the end of that conversation, that person has felt great and you feel great yourself. So I think it's just being a little bit more deliberate about doing some of these things, because they're not as natural as, if the person's right in front of you. But I think you just have to go a little bit off the cuff sometimes. It does make a difference and it does feel great.
Yeah, so to add to that, this question was from Robert. So another learning for me is a lot of activities which we were doing face-to-face or physical activities. A lot of them have their internet versions. So
Yeah.
it's something you can play any game today on internet. So that's one thing which we started doing. Second thing is, the things which became important is physical health and mental wellness. So for our teams, we have a pretty celebrated coach and author here who actually trains some of us. So he has been conducting some sessions for our team here as well as even for India team. And so we are also getting outside speakers to engage with the team. The other thing what we are doing is far more small meetings, and those are video meetings, but more check-ins almost every day for leadership team, one-on-one meetings, and our HR also connects with each team member individually every week. And just yes, to check in to see what's working, what's not working, is there any blocker which we can help remove. And also we do a town hall meeting now every week. So a lot of those things help. And actually, personally, I feel some of those things which we are not doing before, we were starting, and it's helping. And again, I'm not saying, I mean, it's still there's no replacement to having lunch or a beer with one of your team members, and that brings its own value. But I don't think we are still there yet.
Yeah. Another small thing that we've implemented is basically you have to be on video at all times. So, always having video on, it just makes the communication and the experience of dealing with colleagues so much better, right? So that's been really great too.
So another question which has come on cloud is, if an organization already made a quick move to cloud in the last few months, what should they do now to improve, or should they improve? So again, this is based on what our customers are seeing. Once they are on the cloud, they are really, I mean, it's a little bit like an addiction. They really start seeing the value, how easy it is. They feel it is in their control. They can control the cost, they can control the resources, the speed, they can measure everything, the quality of tools to monitor, those things is much better. So they just keep on picking new applications, new use cases, and moving them to cloud. So I will say the only thing is don't slow it down. The second thing is on the improvement side, particularly on cloud, cost optimization is super, super important. So keep an eye on that from day one. Checker, etc., as well as Azure has certain tools, so that there is a possibility of wastage. So how you don't waste it, yeah. So that's where I'll say a real improvement. The third one is today, because you have unlimited capacity, you can really do some very good experiments with your data. So playing with data, seeing some trends, doing some predictive analytics, etc. So those experiments, I'll say, is one of the biggest advantages today of cloud. Yeah. So we have 7-8 minutes left. Please feel free to put more questions. And I have one more question here. This is from Anthony. People need to be aware of evolving from work from home to living at work. We are taking excuse, and people end up working all the time and overlooking things like family. That's an interesting one. Omar, any thoughts?
Yeah. So I personally have not struggled with that, just having 2 small children at home. So I know when the end is there and when I can't be working, but it is I think it is a fair concern. And we've had some conversations about this internally. And what a lot of people are doing, I don't have a perfect answer here, but what a lot of people are doing is they're treating their work day at home as if they're going to work. So, for instance, instead of commuting to work, you go out for a walk at the beginning of the day, or at the end of the day, you go for a bike ride. So there's that sort of definitive start and finish to the day, and to avoid it becoming a long sort of continuous blur. I think right now, because of the weather, it's summer, that's easier, but I do think that this will become a greater concern as we go into winter because, you're inside all the time. And that's where I think workout routine, and having those sort of set boundaries will become even more important.
Yeah. Yeah, at least what we are also seeing, and I mean, I live in Vancouver, I think, people have actually got some pretty good routine around going for a walk or breakfast or lunch or dinner, and they block that time.
Yeah.
And definitely there's more flexibility. So that's the positive side of it to living at work, where you can define how your day looks like, and also you don't need to be micromanaged. You can be more focused on outcomes, and I think productivity can sometimes be significantly higher. And there's always sometimes you miss water cooler talk, etc. But those also now you have channels on Teams and Slack, so you can do that. And they are. So overall, people generally have a better. I mean, the real answer is if you ask people whether they would like to work from home or work from office, I think people are looking for certain flexible solutions around it. Yeah.
Agreed. I think it is a net positive. Yeah, there are, different issues to be concerned about like this, but I would agree with you. I think it is a net positive. I think people overall do want to, would prefer to work from home in some shape.
There's a question from Dr. Sheikh that employers are expecting employees to be available at all odd hours since everyone is at home in any case. How to address this issue? So let me answer this. So at least our view, Dr. Sheikh, on this, and then maybe Omar will add that that's not at least our expectation. And the way we work is really people are responsible for their work. And as a team, our expectation is not that the person will be answering a particular email or a message beyond odd hours, unless obviously there's something super urgent. So if employees are feeling that way, the best is to have a direct communication or discuss with their managers, and maybe there might be a possibility of a communication gap there.
Yeah. One of our values at Enkel is work-life harmony, and the view there is work and life have to they both have to happen, right? How do you make them happen in such a way that one doesn't happen at the expense of the other? And so I really do value and I encourage teams to be connected, but also to find that time to disconnect. So I think it is a bit of a changing mindset, but I do think there is a middle ground there where the two worlds can work together quite harmoniously, so to speak.
So one last call for questions. If there are any more questions, more than happy to answer. Otherwise, Omar, there's one question for you. So,
sure.
Yeah. So now as we are moving towards opening, what is one thing which you would really like to continue doing? One, what you would stop doing, and one which you will start doing.
Okay, so from current state?
Yeah, to the going forward.
Okay, so one
future, yeah. So
sorry, what was that?
All about future. Past is it's
okay.
Let's say post-corona, post-COVID. Yeah.
Okay. So I'd like to start being able to have people, come into the office. I do, despite everything we've just talked about, I do still see value in the office. I just think that the meaning of the office has changed a little bit, right? It's more of a social gathering place than it is, a place to come and spend 5 days a week working. So that's what I'd like to start doing. Stop doing. Stop. What would I like to stop doing? I think I would like to, potentially, I don't know about stopping, to tell you the truth. And I'm not saying I'm perfect, but I really do like this new rhythm that we've established. And keep doing.
Yeah.
I would say keep doing a lot of video conferencing, a lot of virtual meetings. I think really we can cut down on travel. We can cut down on commute times through what we've discovered with COVID, because I think we've learned that we can all be so much more efficient in our daily lives by leveraging this technology.
Okay, so we have one last question from Bavo is, how do you deal with extra backlog or lag which gets created by not being able to quickly walk over to a colleague and get answer on a question or brainstorm solutions?
That's an interesting one.
And so I think, there's no perfect answer. I think, but sometime I think we were also overestimating that advantage, and there were a lot of time also we were wasting some time. So I look at it as some of those questions, then you will start solving yourself and maybe have a more structured meeting.
Yeah.
But there's no replacement to water cooler chat and answering those questions right away. And the way we answer it in Optimus is by having a lot of 5-minute quick Teams chat or Google chat, etc. And so.
And I think that will be, sorry to interrupt there, I think that'll continue to be the value of the office, right? If you have a place to go to every week or every 2 weeks, you can treat that as more of an unstructured day, or plan to be there with, that small team of people that you work with quite regularly. So I don't think it's going away. I think it's just changing. That's all.
Yeah, so thanks a lot, everyone. So just to summarize, I think what we feel, number one, that things are not going to change back to normal. So how do we have, like, the way there's hybrid cloud, there's also hybrid way of working, and how do we really enable the infrastructure, the culture, the technology, and the mindset to really take advantage of this change which was pushed to a large extent onto us. So we personally are still very, very optimistic, and we feel all these changes, they make us better organization, better society, better organization. And so we will come out as winners. And if you need any help on any ideas, or you think what all we have done, if you need more insights, feel free to reach out to me or Omar. We'll be happy to share our insights, and we'll share our contacts. Jaslyn will do it shortly. Thanks, and have a great day. Thanks, Omar, for joining. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Bye.